Hey everybody, what's going on? The Montreal Canadiens season might be over, but that doesn't mean that there aren't plenty of things to talk about with this team. Before we get started with today's video, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. It's as easy as clicking in the bottom right-hand corner of this video. Now, with the Stanley Cup playoffs currently going on throughout the NHL, it's a good time to look at what some of these teams have and how they're built compared to what the Montreal Canadiens likely want to do with where this organization is headed in the future. Now, there's two ways you can go about this if you're the Montreal Canadiens, and if you look around the rest of the NHL, you can see that some teams are very top heavy and have surrounding that talent with depth, and other teams are more littered with talent throughout their lineup, and they're not paying their top player, let's say 10 to 12 million dollars per season. And I think you can make a case that you can go either way in terms of how you're building this team moving forward. And if you look at the current construction of the Montreal Canadiens, it's hard to see them making the case that they're going to be paying their superstar players over $10 million a season because as of this moment, they don't have a superstar player on their roster. They have some very strong talent and some very, very good players, specifically that first line of Cole Caulfield, Uri Slafkovsky, and Nick Suzuki, and that could be the top line for the foreseeable future. But I don't ever envision any of those players going over that mark and being put in that tax bracket. So I think that the right way to build this team right now, if you're the Montreal Canadiens, is to have talent throughout the lineup, have that depth, which really comes into play during the postseason. And I think if you're seeing what's going on during the playoffs right now, although it's very early, you can kind of see that the scoring depth is paying off, even if the star players are still doing what they do best in scoring goals. So I think right now, if you're looking at how deep this Montreal Canadiens pipeline is with talent, and you factor in the upcoming entry draft as well, with the Montreal Canadiens getting another superb prospect in that draft, or potentially even using that selection to trade for another high-end forward from another team. We don't really necessarily know who's available yet from outside the organization, and those rumors could trickle in as the draft approaches. But with what we know right now, it looks as though the Montreal Canadiens are going to build their organization through depth. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad way to go about this situation. When you're given the hand that you're dealt, this is a perfect solution for the Montreal Canadiens. You look at what they're building on defense. There's so many bodies and not enough spots, and it allows them to have that friendly competition from within to earn those positions. And having depth on the back end is never a bad thing. You know you're going to need 8 to 10 defensemen per season when you factor in injuries. So it only makes sense that the Montreal Canadiens keep operating this way. If you look at some of the ways that the top teams in the NHL are built, look at the Carolina Hurricanes, look at their defensive unit, look at the Dallas Stars out west, look at the Vegas Golden Knights. A lot of these teams have strong defenses on the back end, and that's how they're finding their success in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So I think that that's a big thing that the Montreal Canadiens can take from what the Stanley Cup playoffs are showing right now, and I believe that that's how they're going to operate in the future moving forward as well. That's it for me today from Cook's Corner. As always, let me know in the comment section down below how you think the Montreal Canadiens are going to be built moving forward as they push to try to get back to the postseason. I'm Zach Cook. We'll see you later.